I may have disliked reading as a kid, but I loved drawing during my classes, especially when I was zoning out. I wish I could tell you my artwork would one day hang at the moment, but it was far from being anything of quality. Let's just say I wasted a lot of good ink in a bad way. A much better use of that ink would have been to use it to annotate what I was reading. Text annotation is a powerful tool for improving comprehension and understanding. However, most of us never realize the full potential of annotation because we never learned some best practices. Let's face it, everything today involves more reading than it did before. Even math problems have gotten more advanced, and we have to pay attention to what is being said around the numbers to solve the problem and arrive at the right answer. When done right, annotation saves time, improves understanding, and increases engagement with the material. First, let's align with what annotation is. Annotation is the process of adding notes or comments to a text, image, or other media to provide explanation, clarification, or additional information. Annotations can be used to explain complex concepts or terminology, provide context or background information, highlight important points or key takeaways, offer insights or interpretations, and ask questions or prompt further discussion, to name a few. And annotations can take many forms, including notes in the margins of a document or book, comments on a blog post or social media update, labels or tags on an image or a data set, footnotes or endnotes in an academic paper, highlights and notes in a digital document or ebook, highlighting or underlining important ideas or keywords, writing summaries or paraphrases of main points or in the margins, or leaving comments or questions about the text. The main takeaway is that annotation can be used in many ways and can take a variety of forms. As educators, it's important for us and our scholars to harness the full power of annotation and avoid two common mistakes. After each mistake, I'll share a complementary best practice. The first common mistake is not setting a purpose for our annotation. Because there are so many reasons to annotate, we need to set the intention for our annotation at the beginning. Are we reading for understanding, analysis, or future reference? So the first best practice is to set a purpose. Knowing the goal will help guide what we annotate with our scholars. Otherwise, we'll wind up annotating everything, or we could wind up annotating almost nothing. My personal tendency is to underline things I believe are important as I'm reading. My biggest problem winds up being that I've underlined almost everything by the time I'm reading, which doesn't actually help me differentiate what's important from what's just context. I'm a big proponent of not annotating anything the first time through a short document or passage. That strategy doesn't work well when you're reading multiple chapters or going through a book, which leads me to the second most common mistake, which is not setting up a key or a legend. Underlining is great, but underlining doesn't help you differentiate the text if you were going back through it. Was it something interesting? The main idea? A new vocabulary word? Something we have a question about? An important fact? And the list can go on and on. Given that there's no one way to set up a key or a legend, we also shouldn't use the same key or legend for everything we want to annotate. The purpose of the annotation should inform the legend. If we're reading for the main idea, we may only want two symbols, something to use for vocabulary we don't understand that could lead us to miss the main idea, and a symbol for anything that could possibly be the main idea. Then when we're done reading, we can go back and reevaluate what the main idea is, saving a ton of time. To give you an idea of what I mean when I say symbols, here's a few that I've come across in some good keys and legends. Circle, most commonly used for key vocabulary words or words that are unfamiliar. Question mark, used for things we might want to discuss or have a question about. IMP, an abbreviation for important details we don't want to miss. Star, or cloud with sharp edges, used for surprising facts. Underline, used for key ideas or figurative language, like similes and metaphors as you're reading. These are just a few, but as you can see, it doesn't really matter what you use. Feel free to get creative and make it fun. Let's put this into practice. Imagine you're in the classroom right now. Suppose you're reading a historical text with your scholars on George Washington's presidency. As the lead educator, you'd share with the class that we're going to annotate the text today. You might mention, we want to create a timeline of key moments that led to the event. Then you'd present the class with the legend you think they need to be successful. Let's say a circle and a squiggly line. The circle will be for keywords they don't know, and the squiggly line would be for any key moment that they believe led to George Washington becoming the first president of the United States of America. Then you'd start by modeling the annotation process on the first few paragraphs. Encourage them to ask questions about the text and note any personal reactions or connections. As scholars become more comfortable with the process, have them annotate independently. Then share their annotations in small groups. When everyone is done, bring it back as a class and put together the timeline by going through the annotation. Demonstrating to the class how much faster it was to assemble the timeline going through the annotations will show them the power of using annotations when they're working independently. By annotating text, scholars develop essential skills such as critical thinking, analysis, and the ability to make inferences. This practice promotes critical thinking, improves retention, and makes learning more interactive and enjoyable, ultimately creating a richer educational experience for every scholar.